Hello there, and welcome to Friday Night Fairy Tale with me, Violet Forget-Me-Not. Now, the story that we're reading this evening is The Emperor's New Clothes, so if you're sitting comfortably, then I'll begin. There was once an emperor who loved new clothes more than he loved anything else in his empire. His greatest delight was to order gorgeous new robes at least 3 times a week. He spent all his money on his clothes and cared nothing for his soldiers or for the theatre or dancing. Now, the great city where this emperor lived was always crowded with strangers, and many came hoping to see the emperor wearing something new and very splendid. And of course, they were never disappointed. One day, 2 rogues came to the city, and it wasn't long before they saw a way to cheat the emperor and win for themselves a great deal of money. "Let's pretend we are weavers," one said to the other. "We'll go to the palace and tell the emperor that we are the world's best weavers. We'll say the cloth we can weave is the finest ever seen." The emperor believed every word the 2 rogues said when at last they stood before him. "Give us gold and silk threads, your majesty," said they, "and we'll set up 2 looms here in the palace. We promise that you'll have a cloth so wonderful it will dazzle all the eyes." "Oh, certainly I will," cried the emperor. "You'll have everything you need to weave this wonderful cloth." "There is just one thing, your majesty," said one of the false weavers, bowing low. "Only those who are clever and worthy of their high office can see our cloth." "Oh, remarkable!" exclaimed the emperor. "Well, that makes the stuff even more interesting and wonderful." The next day, the 2 cheats came to the palace. They brought with them 2 looms, and they set these up in a room specially made ready for them. At their request, they were given great quantities of golden thread and the finest coloured silks. They were also given bags of gold to encourage them to work fast. The emperor was so excited about this wonderful cloth that he told everyone in the palace about it and how it could only be seen by those who were clever and worthy of the position they held at court. And it wasn't long before all the people in the city knew about the cloth and how only the very stupid would fail to see it. By the end of the first week, the emperor felt he must know how the 2 weavers were getting on. "I won't go myself," he thought. "I will send my oldest and most trusted minister. He is so clever that he will see the cloth and be able to tell me how beautiful it is." Now, the old minister had served the emperor for a very long time, and he was very proud to be chosen. "I will give you a careful report," he told the emperor before he hurried off to the weavers. Imagine his surprise and horror when he entered the room where the 2 rogues sat at their looms pretending to work and saw nothing. Absolutely nothing did he see, not even the smallest piece of cloth on the looms. "Oh, gracious me," thought the old man, "I can't see a thing." But he dared not say so. Instead, he fixed his spectacles more firmly on his nose and nodded once or twice. Then one of the rogues said, "The colours and pattern are very fine. You agree, of course." And the other said, "Don't you think the emperor will be pleased? The colours we have chosen will match his eyes." The old man was silent for a moment, staring at the empty looms. Then he said, Yes, very fine. I will tell the emperor that the cloth you are weaving is truly beautiful." The 2 false weavers then began to explain how they had made up the pattern, and they told the minister how much gold thread they had used. "We will need more gold and more coloured silks," they said at last. "Will you tell the emperor?" "I will indeed," said the old minister, not daring to meet the rogues' eyes in case they should guess his secret. The emperor was delighted with his minister's report. He sent more gold thread and silks to the weavers, which they hid away in a big sack as soon as it arrived. At the end of the 2nd week, the emperor said that he would go in person to the weaver's room to see if the cloth was nearly finished. He took with him several of his most trusted counsellors and 1 or 2 other members of court who were known for their clever, witty remarks. The 2 cheats got up from their empty looms and bowed low as the emperor and his followers crowded into the room. "Tell us, your majesty, what do you think?" said one. "Are you not surprised at the beauty of the cloth and dazzled by the brilliant colours we have chosen?" "Oh, what's this?" the emperor thought, staring at the looms. "I can see nothing at all. Am I then so stupid? Oh, this is terrible. If I speak my thoughts, people will say I am not fit to be their emperor." So he said, "Oh, yes, yes, it is very pretty, quite beautiful." And all his ministers repeated, "Oh, yes, yes, quite beautiful," for they, like the emperor, could not bring themselves to speak the truth. The next day, one of the youngest ministers spoke to the emperor. "In 2 days, the great procession will take place when your majesty will walk through the city streets. Will you ask the weavers to finish the cloth and make it into a suit which you can wear in the great procession? The people want to see this wonderful cloth for themselves." "Well, that is exactly what I intend to do," said the emperor, and he sent 2 more bags of gold to the false weavers with a message saying that they must work through the night to finish the cloth. The weavers lit tall candles in their room so that the servants would report to the emperor that they were indeed working all through the night, and in the morning they said the cloth was finished. The emperor himself hurried to the room when he was given the news, and the cheats pretended to take the cloth from the loom. Then one rogue took up a big pair of scissors and pretended to be cutting the cloth, while the other measured the emperor and respectfully asked him how long he would like his train to be. When the fitting was over, the rogues promised that the suit would be ready the next morning, the day of the great procession. The emperor rose early and made his way to the weaver's room. Behind him came 2 servants carrying a long mirror. The rogues greeted him with deep bows and respectfully asked him to take off his clothes so that he might be fitted with his new robes. The emperor did so, and one rogue held his empty hands in the air, exclaiming, "Here are your trousers, your majesty. They are as light as a spider's cobweb." And the second rogue exclaimed, "And here's the jacket. Are not the colours dazzling?" And he too held up empty hands. The 2 false weavers then pretended to help the emperor into his new clothes, and the ministers who had followed the emperor into the room all cried, "Oh, how wonderful they are, your majesty! How they flatter you! What a perfect fit! What colours!" The emperor stared at himself in the long mirror. His eyes told him that he had nothing on, but he did not dare say this. Instead he said, "Oh, yes, yes, they are a splendid fit, very fine." And turning to the 2 cheats, he said, "I will reward you with the title Imperial Court Weavers, and see that you have more gold before the procession leaves the palace." Then his oldest and most trusted minister, who was in charge of the great procession, said, "The crowds have gathered in the street, your majesty. The musicians are in their places and all is ready." 2 chamberlains were appointed to hold the emperor's long train, and they stooped down and pretended to pick it up. And the emperor left the palace and walked down the steps into the street. "How splendid our emperor looks today!" the crowd began to shout. "Bravo! What glorious clothes! What colours!" No one dared to speak the truth as the emperor, under the rich canopy, walked slowly by. Then suddenly a little boy cried, "But he has nothing on! Our emperor's not wearing any clothes at all!" His father tried to hush his little son, but the words had been heard. More children began to shout and laugh. "Nothing on! The emperor has nothing on!" Soon all the people took up the cry and began to laugh. The emperor heard what they said. Suddenly he knew that what his people said was true, and oh, how sad he was and how ashamed. Clearly he had been tricked and cheated by the weavers, but it was his love for new clothes that had turned him into a fool. Still, he was the emperor. He could not leave the great procession. He must walk through the streets as if nothing was wrong. So the emperor walked on, and behind him came the 2 chamberlains, pretending to carry a train that wasn't there. The emperor was never again so fond of new clothes, for he had learnt his lesson. But it will be a long time before the people of that great city forget the day of the great procession. And if you are wondering about the 2 rogues, why, long before the procession was over, they were galloping their horses out of the city, their bags stuffed with enough gold to last them all the days of their lives. And that's the end of the story. Well, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully see you again soon. Take care and stay safe. Bye!